In today's world, bribery isn't just some distant risk. It's a constant siege. The threats are getting more and more sophisticated. So how do you actually defend your organization? Well, today, we're breaking down the master blueprint for that defense, the key requirements of the Anti-Bribery Standard, ISO 37001-2025.
Okay, let's jump right in. Now, for this explainer, we're drawing from material created by EasyPathUni by coordinations with Yazan and Ibrahim, which focuses specifically on Section 2.3, the key requirements of ISO 37001-2025. We're straight to the core of it, to unpack what this really powerful standard is all about.
So this is really the big question, isn't it? How do you actually build a business that is structurally, culturally, and operationally immune to bribery? You know, it's not about just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. It's about smart architecture.
And that architecture, that plan, is exactly what ISO 37001 gives us. It's time we stopped thinking about it as just another compliance checklist. Really, you should see it as a detailed blueprint for building a fortress of integrity right inside your organization.
And to really get our heads around this blueprint, we're going to walk through it in 3 simple phases. First up, laying the foundation. That's all about the core principles. Then we'll get into building the defenses, the practical day-to-day stuff. And finally, we'll cover manning the watchtower, which is all about staying vigilant.
So let's get started with Phase 1, laying the foundation. You know, any strong fortress needs an unshakable bedrock. And for an anti-bribery system, that bedrock is poured with leadership, a super clear policy, and a culture that is all about integrity.
Now listen to the wording here, because it's really important. The standard doesn't just say leadership should support the policy. No, it says they have to demonstrate visible leadership. That means this whole thing starts at the absolute top. It's about being out front, actively promoting this culture, not just signing off on some document and forgetting about it.
And that visible leadership, this is what it looks like in practice. It translates into a formal anti-bribery policy. This is your cornerstone. For it to actually work, it has to be signed off at the highest level. It has to be communicated so that everybody, and I mean everybody, gets it. It needs to be tailored to your specific risks. And this is a big one. It can't just sit on a shelf. It has to be a living document that gets reviewed and updated.
So who's in charge of all this? Think of this person or team as your fortress's chief architect. The standard actually requires a dedicated anti-bribery function, and this function has to have real teeth. They need the independence to act without someone looking over their shoulder, the skills to handle complex risks, and a direct, unfiltered line straight to top management. No middlemen.
In this chart, this tells a really interesting story. Culture doesn't just happen by accident, it's engineered. Look at the biggest pieces here. Targeted training and clear communication. That's proactive stuff. A strong culture is built not just by punishing the bad, but by actively celebrating and rewarding the good, ethical behavior.
All right, so the foundation is solid. Now it's time to put up the walls and install the gates. This next phase is all about the active, operational defenses that are going to protect your organization from threats day in and day out.
The standard breaks this down into a really logical 3-step process. Super simple. First, you got to know where you're vulnerable, so you assess your risks. Second, you have to carefully check out anyone you do business with, that's due diligence. And third, you put specific controls in place. These are your actual locks and barriers. And hey, when the standard says assess risks, it means go deep. This is not a quick surface-level check. You have to look at your own internal weaknesses, the risks that come with every single business partner, and even bigger picture stuff, like climate-related pressures that could create totally new reasons for corruption. It has to be comprehensive.
Okay, this is a really crucial point. It's about who you let inside your fortress. ISO 37001 is crystal clear here. A one-time background check when you start a relationship is not enough. The standard demands ongoing monitoring. Why? Because a partner who's low risk today could be high risk tomorrow. Things change. Your vigilance has to be continuous.
And here are your actual defenses, the locks on the gates. Things like segregating duties, so no single person has too much control. Having strict approval chains for payments, using software to automatically flag weird transactions, and keeping a close eye on any conflicts of interest. Every single one of these closes a potential backdoor for bribery.
So, the foundation is laid, the defenses are built. But you know what? A fortress is only as good as the guards on the wall. And that brings us to our final, and maybe the most important phase, manning the watchtower. This is all about constant vigilance and always getting better.
This is really the question for this whole section.
You can have the best policies and controls on the planet, but who is actually on watch? Who's scanning the horizon for new threats? Well, according to the standard, the answer is everyone. And this is how you make that happen. Your people are your eyes and ears, but they'll only speak up if they feel safe. That's why the standard insists on having easy, confidential ways to report concerns, an absolute guarantee against retaliation of any kind, and a promise to investigate things fairly. Without that trust, your watchtower is empty.
See, vigilance isn't just sitting around and waiting. It's a dynamic loop, a cycle of improvement. You start by monitoring key metrics to see if what you're doing is even working. Then you audit to find weak spots before someone else does. Management looks at all that intel, and finally, you take action to make your defenses even stronger. It's a cycle that just keeps going.
So, after all of that, laying the foundation, building the walls, manning the watchtower, what have we actually built here? What's the end goal of all this work?
Here it is. This is the main takeaway. A truly robust system isn't just one of these pieces, it's all of them, working together. It's this whole ecosystem that kicks off with unwavering commitment from the top, it's custom built around your specific risks, is super careful about who it partners with, and never, ever stops learning and improving. The end result isn't just a certificate on the wall, it's a real, genuine culture of integrity.
And that brings us right to the end, to the one last critical question. Looking at this entire blueprint, the foundation, the defenses, the watchtower, there's really only one thing left to ask yourself. Is your fortress ready for the test?